Researchers at BYU ran an experiment where people who set a strict budget were 50% more likely to buy the expensive option than people who set no budget at all. Read that again. The people trying hardest to save money spent more. And if you've been grinding through coupon apps, skipping things you actually need, and feeling virtuous about every dollar you didn't spend, this might explain why your net worth still isn't moving. Because there's a version of frugality that doesn't build wealth. It destroys it. Slowly, quietly, while you're busy feeling responsible. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly where the line is between saving that builds wealth and saving that silently costs you hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime. And I'll show you the one mental shift that separates people who are frugal and rich from people who are frugal and stuck. But first, the part nobody talks about. There's a psychological trap baked into the very act of setting a budget. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. There's a massive cultural machine telling you that the path to wealth is paved with things you didn't buy. And look, I get it. The logic feels airtight. Spend less, save more, retire rich. It's been the default financial advice since at least 1991, when a newsletter called the Tightwad Gazette hit 100,000 subscribers during an actual economic boom. People weren't broke. They were just convinced that extreme penny pinching was the answer. And that idea never really went away. It just moved to TikTok. Now you've got millions of views on videos about no-spend months, extreme couponing, and making your own laundry detergent. Which, fine. But here's what none of those videos mention. The average American earns roughly $2 million over their working lifetime. The difference between wealth and not wealth almost never comes down to whether you bought generic cereal. It comes down to 3 or 4 big decisions you made, or didn't make, about earning, investing, and where your money actually sits. And the cruel irony is that obsessive micro-saving can actively prevent you from ever getting to those decisions, because it eats the one resource you can't manufacture more of. Let's start with the research, because it's genuinely wild. Jeff Larson and Ryan Hamilton ran 6 experiments with nearly 800 participants. In one test, they showed people ballpoint pens priced from 99 cents to $3.99. Half the group set a price limit before shopping. The other half just browsed. The result? 59% of the budget setters chose the most expensive pen. Only 39% of the no-budget group did. The act of setting a limit literally flipped their brain from spend as little as possible to get the best thing I can within my limit. The researchers call it the partitioning effect. Your budget becomes a permission structure. Instead of asking, do I need this? You start asking, what's the best version of this I can get for under $50? Which is a completely different question, and it leads to completely different spending. This was published in the Journal of Marketing Research and covered by the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. This isn't fringe stuff. This is your brain quietly sabotaging your own rules, which, to be clear, is exactly as annoying as it sounds. But the budget backfire is just the appetizer. The real cost of obsessive frugality is time. And I don't mean that in a vague motivational poster way. I mean it mathematically. Let's say you spend 5 hours a week on extreme saving behaviors, couponing, price comparing every purchase, driving to 3 stores for the best deal on chicken, making your own cleaning products. And let's say all of that effort saves you about $50 a week. That's $10 an hour for your time. Now compare that to what happens if you spent those same 5 hours on something that increases your income. A side project, a certification, even just researching one better investment allocation. If that effort leads to even a modest raise, say $3,000 a year, you've already tripled the return. And here's the part that should genuinely bother you. The savings from couponing are linear. You save $50 this week, $50 next week, forever. But income growth and investment returns compound. That gap doesn't just grow, it accelerates. Every year you spend optimizing for $10 an hour savings instead of $100 an hour decisions, the distance between where you are and where you could be gets wider. Not by a little, by a lot. Now here's where it gets psychologically interesting. Researcher John Lastovica at Arizona State identified something most personal finance content completely ignores. There are two fundamentally different kinds of frugal people. The first type is voluntarily frugal. They genuinely enjoy the game of spending less. They're less influenced by social pressure. They think long-term, and this is key, their frugality is stable. It doesn't change when their income goes up. These people tend to do well financially because their saving behavior is a tool, not a cage. The second type adopted frugality under pressure. A job loss, a recession, a financial scare. And research shows these people almost always abandon the behavior when the pressure lifts. In a 2009 Gallup survey, 27% of Americans said they were saving more and planned to keep doing it. Spoiler, most of them didn't. Because forced frugality feels like deprivation, and deprivation has a shelf life. So if your saving strategy requires constant willpower and makes you miserable, it's not a wealth-building plan, it's a diet. And we all know how diets end. But here's the real reversal, and this is the part I need you to actually sit with. Most people treat their financial life like it's made up of 10,000 small decisions. Paper or plastic, generic or name brand, latte or no latte. But wealth is almost never built or destroyed at that level. It's built or destroyed by maybe 5 decisions across your entire life. Where you live, what career path you commit to, when you start investing, what you invest in, and whether you let lifestyle inflation eat every raise you ever get. One person who starts investing at 25 instead of 35, even modestly, can end up with 2 to 3 times more at retirement. Not because they saved harder, because they made one decision earlier. Meanwhile, someone who spent a decade perfecting their grocery budget, but delayed investing by 5 years gave up more wealth than they could ever coupon their way back to. That's the hidden cost of saving money. It's not the saving itself. It's what the obsession with saving prevents you from doing. So, what do you actually do with this? Here's the framework. Number 1, automate the saving, then stop thinking about it. Set up automatic transfers to your investment accounts and a high-yield savings account. Make it invisible. The goal is to remove saving from your daily decision-making so it stops consuming mental bandwidth you need for bigger moves. Number 2, calculate your real hourly rate on any saving behavior. If you're spending an hour to save $6, that's $6 an hour. You would literally earn more working a minimum wage shift. Redirect that time toward anything with compounding potential. Your career, a skill, your investment knowledge. Number 3, identify your 5 big decisions and audit them. Where do you live relative to your income? Are you investing, and did you start? What's your actual asset allocation? Is your career trajectory pointed somewhere, or are you just drifting? These are the levers that move your net worth by tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, not the grocery bill. Number 4, give yourself permission to spend on things that buy back time or increase your earning capacity. A course that leads to a better role isn't an expense. A tool that saves you 10 hours a week isn't a luxury. Frugality that prevents strategic spending is just expensive caution wearing a disguise. And number 5, check which type of frugal you are. If you genuinely enjoy it and it's sustainable, great, keep it as one tool in the kit. If it feels like punishment and you're white-knuckling through every purchase, that's not a strategy, that's a stress response. And it will break eventually. The frugality industrial complex wants you to believe that wealth is built one skipped latte at a time. It isn't. Wealth is built by making a few big decisions right and then not sabotaging them with a decade of financial anxiety over things that don't move the needle. Save smart, but more importantly, think bigger. If this reframed how you think about money, hit subscribe, because this is the kind of thing we break down here. Not the obvious stuff, the stuff that's quietly costing you and nobody's pointing it out.